Women are instinctively drawn to strength, not just physical power, but emotional and mental resilience. This attraction isn't a choice, it's wired into their biology. When a man stands firm in his purpose, handles pressure without crumbling, and leads with quiet confidence, he becomes magnetic. But the moment he collapses under the weight of his struggles, especially in front of her, something shifts. She may still care, but the respect, the raw desire, begins to fade. It's not cruelty, it's nature. Women don't fall for potential, they fall for proof. They need to see that you can carry weight, not just complain about it. This doesn't mean you have to be emotionless. It means your vulnerability must come with direction. A woman can admire a man who's been through hell, but only if he's already on his way out. If you dump your unresolved pain at her feet, you force her into a role she never signed up for. Therapist, not lover. She might nod, hug you, even say the right words, but internally her attraction is retreating. Why? Because her deepest instincts are scanning for safety, and a man who can't handle his own storms doesn't signal security. He signals risk, the irony. The more you try to make her understand your pain, the less she feels connected to you. Real strength isn't about hiding struggle, it's about mastering it before sharing it. She doesn't need to see you bleed. She needs to see you heal. And that's the difference between a man she pities and a man she worships. There's a dangerous myth that emotional transparency always deepens connection, but the reality is far more brutal. When a man unloads his unresolved pain onto a woman, mistaking raw exposure for intimacy, he doesn't bring her closer. He repels her. Women aren't wired to fix men. They're wired to follow them. The second you make her your emotional dumping ground, you invert the polarity of attraction. She didn't sign up to be your therapist or your savior. She signed up to be your partner, which means she needs to trust your ability to lead even through chaos. This isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about processing them like a man. Venting your insecurities, fears, or failures without any sign of resolution doesn't make you authentic, it makes you unstable in her eyes. She listens. She comforts you, but beneath the surface, her primal instincts are sounding alarms. A man who can't self-soothe is a liability, not a protector. And once that shift happens, no amount of apologies or future confidence can fully undo it. The attraction doesn't just dim, it corrodes. The solution? Struggle in silence first. Take your pain to the gym, to your purpose, or to trusted brothers, not to her. Then, when you do share, frame it as a battle already won, not a cry for help. She admired the strength it took to overcome, not resent the weakness that begged her to carry it. That's how you keep her respect and her desire. The strongest men aren't those who never feel, they're the ones who channel emotion into action. Masculine vulnerability isn't about weakness. It's about controlled revelation. A woman can sense the difference between a man sharing his scars to inspire and one bleeding on her to be healed. The former commands respect, the latter drains attraction. When you open up, it should never feel like a collapse. It should feel like an invitation into your fortitude. She doesn't need to see you shattered. She needs to see you reforging yourself in the fire. This is the tightrope walk of emotional intelligence. Being human enough to relate to, but unshakable enough to rely on. You can admit doubt, but pair it with determination. You can acknowledge fear, but follow it with resolve. The key is always forward motion. A woman's desire thrives on progression, not stagnation. Tell her you're in a battle, but show her you're winning it. That's the narrative that keeps her hooked, not the wounds, but the warrior holding them. The moment your vulnerability becomes a burden, you've lost the frame. But when it's a display of quiet strength, when she sees the depth of your struggle but the certainty of your comeback, that's when her admiration locks in. She doesn't fall for the man who has it all together. She falls for the man who proves again and again that nothing can keep him broken. The most powerful transformations happen in silence. When a man hits rock bottom, society tells him to open up, but true strength often lies in strategic withdrawal. Disappearing isn't about hiding shame, it's about preserving energy for the rebuild. Women can't unsee weakness once it's exposed, but they'll never forget the mystique of a man who resurfaces transformed. Your lowest moments should be solitary alchemy, where pain gets distilled into purpose behind closed doors, not paraded as a performance of suffering. This is where most men fail. They mistake companionship for permission to crumble, not realizing every unprocessed complaint etches itself into her memory. But the man who vanishes into his forge, he writes a different story. When he reappears calmer, sharper, with quiet victory in his wake, he becomes legend. She doesn't need to know about the sleepless nights or the gritted teeth. She only needs to witness the result. A man who treats his struggles like raw material for his evolution. The magic lies in the contrast between what she last saw and what now stands before her. That gap breeds fascination. Let her wonder how you changed. Let her mind fill the silence with admiration. Your greatest power isn't in making her understand your process, it's in making the outcome undeniable. Come back with calloused hands and steady eyes, not explanations. That's how a man turns pain into mythology. The foundation of lasting attraction isn't charm or confidence. It's an unbreakable inner frame. Women test men constantly, not out of malice, but because their biology demands proof of stability. When life hammers you, they're not watching for perfection. They're watching to see if your core stays solid. A man who crumbles under pressure teaches her he can't be trusted with her deepest vulnerabilities, but the man who meets chaos with calm, he becomes her sanctuary. This isn't about being emotionless, it's about being the eye of the hurricane. Most men misunderstand strength. They think it means never faltering, when in truth it's about the speed and grace of your recovery. She notices when you take a hit but keep your footing. She remembers when stress would break most men, but you simply adjusted your grip and kept leading. That's the silent language of reliability. Every time you choose resolve over reaction, you're not just managing a moment, you're reinforcing her primal belief in you. The paradox? The less you need her to stabilize you, the more she wants to. When she sees your emotional independence as non-negotiable, her desire transforms from fleeting to fundamental. She stops wondering if you're strong enough and starts fearing she's not worthy of that strength. That's when devotion replaces doubt, when she knows no storm could ever make you someone else's problem. The final truth is this: a woman's love isn't charity, it's earned through silent demonstration of worth. Every tear shed on her shoulder, every moment of emotional dependency, withdraws from the bank of her desire. But the man who transmutes suffering into quiet mastery, he makes deposits she can't ignore. This isn't about playing games, it's about understanding the brutal arithmetic of attraction. What you bring to her emotionally either multiplies her devotion or divides her respect. Modern culture sells the lie that vulnerability means handing women your broken pieces. The ancient wisdom knew better. Real strength means returning from your battles with trophies, not trauma. She doesn't need to see the wounds to believe in the war. In fact, the less you speak of the struggle and the more your presence radiates its resolution, the deeper her fascination grows. Your silence becomes the canvas where she paints her highest admiration. The choice is always yours. Be the man who seeks comfort in her arms, or the man whose arms become her comfort. One path leads to gradual detachment, the other to unshakable loyalty. When you stop making your pain her responsibility, she starts seeing you as her privilege. That's the alchemy few men master, turning solitude into sovereignty, suffering into silent command. And that's how legends are written, not in cries for help, but in the quiet certainty of a man who needed no one to save him.